Welcome to Chasing the Upside, conversations about living the FPL life. Today we have FPL veteran and host of Scoutcast, Andy North. Our chat explores how to actually enjoy this game of ours, what success looks like in FPL, and the best piece of FPL advice he has ever been given. Andy North, welcome to Chasing Upside. How are you?
I'm not too bad, mate. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. No, it's the pleasure is all mine. We just had a quick chat before rolling, and your Tesco shop is done. It's the baskets are full, so we're good to go. We're good to go.
We are. Priorities, mate. I had to get that done. Had
Absolutely.
to make sure my kids were fed for the week, and then I can jump on and have a bit of fun with you.
You mean to say that your kids being fed are more important than chatting rubbish about FPL?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't say FPL. Chatting rubbish about FPL, maybe, but yeah, FPL is still to be seen. We'll see.
Oh well, maybe we'll come to that later on in the chat.
Yeah.
Actually. So yeah, good place to start. The place I like to start with all these conversations is your origin story for FPL. So where's a good place to start?
Oh, well, if you look on my history, I mean, the history doesn't actually go back far enough for how long I've been playing. So I think I've been playing since I was about 16, 17, and I'm 34 now. So a good 17 odd years. And I started playing in sixth form. I wasn't massively into football when I was little. So at sixth form, all my mates were really into it. And we started playing FPL. And it was great. I can really vividly remember bringing in Stuart Downing after he got a brace for Middlesbrough. And my mate went, well, he's got his brace now. So why are you bringing him in? And something clicked in my head like, oh, there might be more to this than I thought there was. I thought you just brought in players after they did well. And then obviously did fairly well. And like, you know, I was all right. I think I've had a overall rank under like 200K since I've been playing, something like that. And I just kind of did okay. And then, you know, obviously I did quite well and joined Twitter after all that. So yeah, it's good. It's just good fun. It just adds to the game for me. And that's why I've been doing it for so long, I think.
Yeah, well, a question I was going to ask a bit later possibly is but I'll bring it forward because you mentioned that is what does you know bring you back year after year to the game?
Anything competitive with me. Like I love all the competitive side of things, and it's stuff that you can delve into in such great detail if you want to, but you can also just play without any knowledge if you wanted to as well. And I'm massively into my fantasy NFL as well, so I love NFL fantasy, and it's just that kind of, like I said, when you start delving into it, you start finding podcasts that are awesome, and you start finding websites, and you start finding YouTube streams, and as soon as you stumble onto something that you think nobody else has found, it just becomes fascinating, and I love that side of things. I'm not a massive statty guy. I'm really into narratives, if I'm honest. Like I love that. I love that kind of stuff. And I just think that's what's kind of kept me going every year. And you get the summer and you think, right, I want the rest. You give it a couple of weeks, you're like, no, I've got the itch now. I want to get back into it. And it happens every season. It happens every single season. And by the time it gets to, August time, you're raring to go.
I think that's a key point for me. Is I mean, I haven't been doing FPL too long. My fantasy sort of origin story, I suppose, was more in the Sun Dream Team with mates. We've done that for years, but an FPL was more of a recent thing. But one thing that I absolutely love about it is the dynamic nature of it. Is that yes, it's about the picking the team, but then it's about the, like as you said, the narratives, the during the week, and is he injured? You know, is there going to be leaks? All these things, all like the drama that goes into it, is completely fascinating and totally addictive, which again we might speak about later.
Yeah, big time. And I like you just said as well there, by the way, I do love the fact that there is a inner sanctum of people that take this incredibly seriously. And obviously I'm one of them. And the people that just play this for fun have no idea the levels of drama that goes on throughout a week before deadline. Like you said, leaks have just gone onto a whole nother level now. And it's unbelievable the stress they can cause when other people are just happily going about making their transfers on a Saturday before their teams have even finished playing.
Yeah, but and then if it's not leaks, it'll be something else in a couple of weeks, or some other big drama. That a tiny percentage of the the FPL players give a shit about.
Yeah, I know. It literally is like 1%. Mental.
So I don't want to bring up something that's still a bit raw, Andy, but
Oh,
I'm exactly in your boat. So this can be like a joint counselling session because I've got a worse rank than you this season. So there we go. I dropped to 4 million over Sunday. Saturday, I was like, oh, this is turning into a good game week. Sunday, I don't even know what happened. I was like, oh, I got a return there. Check my live FPL, and I was like down to 4 million, and I just couldn't believe what happened. But and you were kind of in the same spot. So if it's not too uncomfortable for you, so Sunday, the scenario is Sunday evening comes, all the matches are gone. You're in potential free fall. You've got another red arrow.
yeah.
Take us into your mind for 6 p.m., half six till half eight. What's your mind doing?
Well, my mind is doing something very different to what it was doing maybe 3 years ago.
Ah, okay.
I am not going to lie. I can remember it was about 3 years ago. You know the John Lundstrom season where he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
There was one week. It was I think it was the first year I joined Twitter, and I was in a group chat, and everybody really cared about FPL, and they really wanted to prove that they were really good at this game. And I had benched Lundstrom. I'd had him from the start. Well, one of the only people that actually had him from the start, and I benched him for Otamendi. Right, Otamendi didn't play. Lundstrom got 2 goals, 21 points. He was sat on my bench, and I thought, well, that's all right because Otamendi isn't playing. And Otamendi came on to shore up a 1-0 win for City against something like Sunderland and got 1 point. And I can remember looking at my phone, throwing my phone at my sofa, and was just like, right, I'm done. I'm literally done. And the next morning, I thought to myself, what are you doing? Like, what? Come on, you're doing this to enjoy it, and you're not enjoying it. And I think I've kind of taken, weirdly, I'm doing more, but I've taken a step back emotionally, if that makes sense, just to kind of think, this is literally just a game. Like, whatever happens, happens, and I'm just happy playing the game, and that's massively changed for me. But what I also think, especially this early in the season, there's such a small margin of points between 3 million and 1 million, for instance. Like Seb, who I do Scoutcast with, he's 1.6 million, I think it is. He's only 19 points ahead of me, and I'm 3 mil. Like that's one good game week. And that's all I keep thinking at the moment. And just keep thinking, as long as you make good moves and you're making sensible, smart moves for the long term, things will work out for you. And it's just been a tough start to the season. But I think as long as you always have a level head and just think they're not bad moves I'm making, then you can't go too far wrong.
Yeah, it does seem. I mean, the whole point of these conversations are hopefully people are going to be tuning in 6 months a year, and they're still relevant to FPL, and this will be relevant to FPL, so in an evergreen way because I'm looking at my team. It's a reasonably templated team. I'm looking at my team. I'm thinking, now I might be wildcarding soon, but it's not in dire straits at all,
Yeah.
which is so strange because and I've never had this before where there's been because usually it's so clear because of various reasons that you need to wildcard or you need to completely change up or give up the game, one of the two. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just not like that, which is a really odd sort of situation to be in. I don't know if you found
Yeah.
that.
And like you were saying there just a minute ago about how on Saturday your team was doing okay, and mine was the same. I was 1.9 million to start, and I went up to 800k after Saturday, and then dropped down a 3 mil after Sunday. And if anything, to me, that just shows just how bunched up everything is and how quick the gains can be as well. So I felt okay after that. It's just I do agree with you where I'm looking at my team and thinking so many of those players I'm quite happy to hold, but I have also invested a little bit too heavily in teams that I wasn't sure going into the season, if that makes sense. So, for instance, I had triple Chelsea until last week, and that has not gone well. Double United, who, although I'm a United fan, it's tough to say every week they're going to do well. And when you start looking at your team like that and thinking, actually, yeah, there are a few things that maybe I would change.
Has that potentially changed the way you're going to pick your team next year? Because I think a lot of people, when I saw some teams where people have sort of had 9 players from 3 teams because they were so sure about, tripling up. Um, and I think that seemingly, yes, you might have a good idea about the teams, but you just never know how a team's going to start, do you? And you're putting so many eggs in one basket. So sort of fast forwarding potentially when you put your team together for next season, is that something you're going to think about? Not going triple or double, or does it totally depend?
No, not at all. No, literally, because it's a completely different situation again.
Mm, mm,
This time, obviously, it hasn't worked out. Next time, it could be
mm,
absolute gold. Like you
mm,
look at the people that maybe had Spurs double up to start the season. They weren't sure what they would be like, but they thought they'd take the gamble. Look what happened. They've obviously done very well. If they had like a Madison, a Son, and a Doggy maybe from the start, which some people did. If people did take that jump on Alvarez really quickly and said, no, do you know what? I'm happy to own two Man City strikers. They've obviously were reaping the rewards for quite a while there. So actually, I think it's again looking back at what I've done before. I'll just always take those shots. I feel like those shots are there to be taken, and I can't say, "Oh, that one didn't work out, so the next one's not going to work out." I'll always think, "No, that one didn't work out, but I'm still going to go for it the next time," because that is how you make those big gains as well. It does hurt when it doesn't go right,
mm.
but you've obviously got to take those shots, I think.
Yeah. So would you say, since I'm going to call it throwing your phone against the the sofa gate.
Yeah.
Since that fateful day, have you, and you've become slightly more laid back about it? Has your decision making process changed because of that? Are you more liable to take those shots, to be more aggressive, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Rather than thinking a bit, playing scared essentially, which I suppose you can do if you care about it too much.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's weird. I'm not aggressive in terms of hit taking. Like, I'm not aggressive in terms of saying, I think this is definitely going to happen, so I'm going to go balls to the wall to do it, especially in one game week. I tend to be more aggressive in terms of, like, for instance, I've got triple city attack at the moment. I'm quite happy to do something like that if I feel like I'm going to be getting the minutes out of them and things like that. A lot of people say I'm quite a template manager. If you look at my template rating on a lot of those things, you see that I'm fairly high, but that's because I don't tend to let that affect me either. I don't think, oh, this guy's template, so I won't get him. If I feel like I need somebody and I feel like they're going to get me points continuously over the next couple of weeks, I'll get them. But yeah, I think I'm a little bit more. I'd say it a few times on Scoutcast actually. Like, one of my philosophies is KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid. And it's, if something seems simple and it makes sense, it probably is your best move. So yeah, I do try and stick to that most weeks if I can as well.
It's funny you said Kiss, because I had a chat with Alex Michelle from the Twitter community,
Yeah.
and his you're going to get the same question later, but the best piece of FPL advice was Kiss. So, and I
Yeah.
don't know where he got it. He might have even got it from Scoutcast. Who knows? I
You
don't.
never know.
You never know. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
obviously yeah, wise words. Wise words. Um, so have you pinpoint, so your best ever season that you had, your best ever game week, game rank,
Mhm.
um, what year was it? Do you know? And can you kind of pinpoint why it went so well? Why are you smiling so much?
Because I know exactly. So it was the year before I joined Twitter.
Oh,
So
perfect timing. Yeah.
exactly. So I finished 15K,
Wow.
and that's my best one that I've had. I'm not an upper 10K kind of manager. I'm not. I don't tend to be. So 15K I finished before I joined Twitter, but the year before that was 30K. So I'd done relatively well, and that's what made me think. Right, I want to join Twitter. I want to see what it's all about. And I dropped like a stone because I genuinely thought everybody on Twitter was so much better than I was. And I was
Yeah.
trying to listen to all of their advice. I thought they all knew exactly what they were talking about. And I just followed too much of what I saw and stopped listening to myself. And I think that's where now I've taken that step back again and just gone, no, make your good decisions, make what you know is a good decision. And that's what's helped me. So now, last couple of seasons, it's always been within top 50K again. So yeah, funnily enough, like I said, the best season I've had was just before I joined the community that I'm a massive part of now.
Yeah. That's interesting though, isn't it? Because you obviously had your own way of playing and you weren't getting in your own head, and then you had too much information, basically. Yeah.
basically. I mean, there are differences, obviously. The game has changed an awful lot. There's a lot more people playing, and content has gone crazy now as well. But yeah, it is something that I talk about a fair bit in terms of there is too much information out there sometimes.
What do you mean by that? As in, because it can cloud your judgment, you mean?
Yeah, because it can cloud your judgment, and you can listen to too many different things, I think, sometimes, and it kind of gets you a bit twisted and gets you thinking about your decisions a bit too much. Whereas, like I was just saying there, sometimes keeping it simple is literally the best thing you can do. If you've got a weak point in your team, there's a good player to replace him with. Sometimes that's just the best thing you can do. And you can literally do that at the beginning of the week sometimes. But obviously, you wait all week, and before you make that move, everything's going through your head. So, yeah.
And we're sort of getting it in this week as well, in the most seemingly boring double game week of all time. But yet that's the narrative at the moment, is it? Are you bringing in Morris, or are you captaining Morris? All these things. And and this is a perfect example. We're recording on a Wednesday, and on
Mhm.
the Monday, I was just so sure what I was going to do, and I wasn't going anywhere near the double game week at all. Yet, it's like a drip feed effect, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
And now I'm sort of on the fence about it. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
just
it's tough. I mean, when you see those double game weeks in the horizon, you think you can say, no, I'm not going to do it. But until you're in that week and you're looking at the team and you're seeing other teams with those double game week players, it makes a massive difference in that week. And don't get me wrong, I think if you have an easy route to get into Morris, I genuinely would do that move. I would. I think it's a double game week against nice teams. He's a penalty taker. He's got the best underlying stats of both of those double game week teams. I completely get the move. I wouldn't want to keep him afterwards, but I do get it. And it's sometimes it's again, like I was saying before, it's a shot you just got to take sometimes.
okay. So this is why it's fascinating, because a couple of minutes ago you said go through your team, remove the weak points, keep it simple, stupid, right? So, and it's not about my team, but relating this to my team, it's a decision that lots of people would have, because the obvious thing in my team is a weak point is Chilwell, and I've only got one free
Mhm.
transfer. So then you think, right, well, let's keep it simple, stupid. Let's just get rid of Chilwell, and then you think, yeah, but there's a double game week and there's Morris, and then it's a bit, then you
Yeah,
start
yeah.
going in circles, don't you? So
But who's
it's
who's your strikers then?
I've got Alvarez and I've got Haaland, obviously. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
So
that's where it's
it's
tough, I guess.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. As I said, it's not about my team, but it's just that dynamic, isn't it? All the time, over and over again during the season,
Yeah,
that
definitely.
pulls you in too. So with so many, especially over the last 17 years, I mean, you really have seen the growth and growth and growth of not just the content, but of course the players as well.
Mhm.
Um, and traditionally, it was always sort of the top 10K, wasn't it? Which was the holy grail. But what do you think success looks like now in FPL? Is there a number, or is it a bit more nuanced than that?
It's so different every season. And obviously, for me, this is going to sound so cheesy, but if you're enjoying it,
Hmm.
that is the biggest success you can get from it. If you're enjoying it, if you've made friends doing it, if you can talk, at work about FPL, I love that. Now, I'm a teacher and I moved school about 3 years ago, and we've had 2 years worth of doing FPL with some of the guys that work there. And we talk about it all the time. And for me, that is success. That's awesome that you get to do that. I think if you were a really low rank at any point and you managed to climb up and you managed to maybe hit a target you were trying to get to, that's a good successful thing that you managed to do. But I think if you were trying to put a number on it before the season's even started, I think now if you can finish top 100K, I genuinely think you've done very well. If you can consistently finish top 100K, I would say you were a very good manager. I would say that you are somebody that can plan well, that can look at fixtures, can look at form, and put all of it together and make sure you have a good finish. And I think, like I said, if you can do 2, 3 seasons in a row finishing top 100K, I'd say you're up there as a very, very good manager,
Mm,
personally.
yeah, I think that's quite a nice way to look at it. My favorite part there was the having fun part, because I think all the ups and downs and like the disappointment and the frustration of taking a player out and then he bangs, obviously, is nothing of that really matters as long as you're actually enjoying the actual game, because it is a game, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
It adds so much, I think. I mean, I've just this is my first year of doing NFL fantasy as well, which is a game changer. Um, and now I'm finding that red zone on a Sunday night is just another
Oh,
level on top. It's just the
oh,
ultimate, isn't it?
oh, honestly, mate, that's I'm all about that. You wait
Yeah.
till you find out what dynasty is.
No, no, because I won't have a life and I won't have a marriage left and all sorts. So I don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. But
Yeah,
yeah, and that's what fantasy as an umbrella term does, isn't it? It adds that level of enjoyment to what you already love. So yeah,
yeah.
good stuff. So just before we go on to the final two questions, something a bit deeper maybe. What has FPL taught you about life?
Do you know, it's one of those things where I think when I joined Twitter and went into a group to start with, there was a poker player in there, and he was a professional poker player, FPL differential. He's a lovely bloke, Jonathan, and I started really listening to him because a lot of what he used in poker, he used to use in FPL, and a lot of that kind of meditation he used to talk about an awful lot, because obviously if you go on tilt in poker, it's the worst thing ever, and you're not making decisions based on logic, you're making them based on emotion. And he used to do that about FPL all the time. Don't ditch a player straight away because you're angry on that at that time. Use your logic, take your time. And I actually find I now have started doing that in real life a little bit as well. Don't make your decisions based on emotion. Take your time, use your logic, and just calm down. And I feel like as soon as you start applying that from FPL to any kind of situation, you're actually making better decisions in your everyday life all the time. And people maybe don't realize how much they make decisions based on emotions and how they feel about things. And actually, a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, they're bad decisions because you're just acting off that. So I think that's something massive that I've taken from FPL. That kind of, you know, decision making ability has kind of improved quite a lot for me, I would say. Don't always make the right decision, by the way, but it does help a little bit, I would say.
Have you taken anything from FPL, the learnings in FPL to the classroom for your kids?
um, Not massively because of the age I teach. So I
No,
teach only
they're never too young. Never too young.
No, that's true. I teach 7 or 8 year olds. So if I was just a little bit older, I have done like leagues before where you go up against each other. I do a thread at the beginning of every year where I ask my class for advice for the FPL community. That's
Okay.
always gold. That's really good. So if you haven't read any of those, to
Yeah.
try and search for them because they are quite funny. But I mean, kids are brilliant, aren't they? But no, not so much yet. I have been tempted to drop a few well-known FPL sayings in the parents' evenings or reports, like
Right.
"Oh, hasn't really performed, but he's due a good result" or something like that. And I thought I don't think I could do it because some of them do know what I do. So
Oh,
I thought that
that's
may be a
so
bit,
good.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
could talk about the kids' underlying numbers.
exactly, yeah.
That'd be
No,
so good, wouldn't it?
yeah, the outcome's disappointing, but the underlying numbers are there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's. I would always the intention of these conversations is always about a celebration of FPL, the good and the bad and the ugly. But in keeping with being nice and positive about the game, and as I said, a celebration. What is your favorite FPL moment of all time?
I'm gonna cheat a little bit
Yeah.
if that's okay, because I've got two and they're very, very different. So one of them, and it's you know when a moment is really good that you can remember exactly where it happened, exactly where you were. And I used to play Skittles on a Thursday night, and I can remember I triple captained Alexi Sanchez, and we'd walked into the pub and they had it on the screen, and he just scored his second goal in the second game of the game week. So he was at a double game week. So that was 4 goals in total he got me. So he got me 75 points as my triple captain. And my whole team got like 185 points that week or something like that. And I can just really remember it because I can just remember the white sea around him. And triple captain hadn't been around that long. And I can just remember thinking, oh, this is lovely. And I can really remember that. And that's probably one of my biggest moments. So I've still got that screenshot and I still, love it. And the other one is when I was in like sixth form. So I was about like 17, 18. I'd only just started playing. And I can remember looking at my team. Tevez was at West Ham, and I was looking at it and I brought him in. But then I also had to do another move to enable me to bring him in. And I looked for a while at who to bring in, and I brought in Shabandi Nonda from Blackburn.
Right.
And I can remember watching Soccer Saturday and he scored, and I went absolutely mental. My dad was like, "Why are you getting so excited about Shabandi Nonda? I've never even heard of him." And I thought, this is what FPL is. Like, this is what it is. Getting that excited about a player that hardly anybody's heard of. Even
Yeah.
now, people are like, "Who's Shabani Nonda?" But I can remember buying him. He only got me 6 points, but I love the fact he scored. Tevez also got a brace as well, but it was the fact that my differential that I brought in scored to enable Tevez. I was just so excited, and the fact nobody else really got that, I thought, kind of summed up FPL really.
Oh, that is amazing. Yeah, that's peak FPL, isn't it? Yeah,
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 big time.
that's awesome. It's funny you should say that all these memories are so clear and so vivid because
Mm.
everybody that I've spoken to so far, um, their favorite FPL moment, they know exactly what they were wearing, they know exactly what they obviously where they were, and that moment is incredible. And I've said again, it's like when you hear a piece of music, it takes you straight back to that time, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Because it's
definitely.
so emotionally engaging. So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Nonda, and I presume you got a poster of Nonda on your wall.
No, I don't. I don't think I knew how to take screenshots back then, so I don't even have the screenshot of the thing. But yeah, no, I need to. As soon as I get my room that I can do my streams in, I'll make sure I have a picture of him in the background.
Yeah, perfect. Good stuff. And so finally, yeah, before the last question, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat. I've had a really, really nice chat. It's been funny, it's been humorous, but also, yeah, you passing on your knowledge has been great. So, and
Ah,
17 years worth of knowledge as well. That's pretty impressive.
yeah, not sure whether it's 17 years worth of knowledge, 17 years of experience, maybe.
Experience.
But yeah, exactly. But something to be learned, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. So within that 17 years, then, what's the best piece of FPL advice you've ever been given?
So I would say the best piece of advice I've been given, and this is from FPL Corf, who is absolutely awesome in the community. He's a lovely bloke. Um, the best piece of advice he gave me, and this was 3 years ago maybe, was look at your team straight after the deadline before you've taken in any content and decide what move you want to do there and then. Then wait a week when all the content you've seen everything, and then see how you feel about that move that you were going to make, because that initial move is probably your gut and your brains and everything else saying that is the one that makes sense, and then you take in all the other content, because otherwise you don't know what your initial kind of gut is saying to do compared to, well, is this what I think or is this what everybody else is telling me to think? And that's really helped. So I do that pretty much every Sunday or Monday. I go, this is what I probably want to do, and then I look forward to the week, knowing full well that is what my brain told me to do at the beginning. If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense because you're relying on that, like you say, the gut, the instinct that,
Mm-hmm.
but that instinct comes from years and years and years of experience, doesn't it? So it comes
Yeah,
from a pretty accurate place, probably.
yeah, and
Um,
I stream 2, 3 times every week. All that data is, and all the fixtures and stuff are in my head. I know they're all there. So I say gut, but what I mean is that kind of, like you said, underlying knowledge and knowing my next move, and it's just making sure it doesn't get mixed up with everybody else's moves.
mm, mm. Has just going back to this week, then I suppose if
Yeah.
you go through that process, has that changed because we're sort of halfway through the week now, or was it still up in the air?
Well, so my plan move this week, and this was from 2 weeks ago, was getting rid of Chilwell and bringing in Botman. I would have loved Trippier, but I just can't afford him from Chilwell. But obviously, since the week's gone on, I'm looking at, do I do Julian Alvarez to Morris? Do I do something like that? And then, because I'm looking at wildcarding next week anyway.
Yeah.
But I think I'll probably just get Botman in, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, it's always the same. Your brain lets you think about it, but I probably will just do that simple move that I've had planned for a while.
Yeah. Just before you go, on the subject of wildcard, is there over the years has there been commonalities of when you've used that? in terms of, is there a certain state that your team needs to be in, or is it completely situational? But have you noticed some commonalities over the years?
Usually I do it early.
Right.
Usually after 3, 4 weeks, I'm like, right, I want to jump on these players. I want to get on these players. I've
Okay.
left it longer this year and I've been really patient. And doing my wild card, my team value is suffered, if I'm honest. And it's harder to get to some of those nice players. But a week's a long time in football, and all of a sudden, those players that everybody wants, they won't want next week. So we've seen that with players like Chilwell and Bumo. They were essential a couple of weeks ago, and now everybody's ditching them. So yeah, a week's a long time in football and a long time in politics, isn't it? So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think either early on to get team value or later on when there's some kind of a fixture swing, which we're seeing in 8, 9, and 10. So yeah, those are usually the times for me.
Brilliant. Well, I've had a fantastic time. I hope you have too. Once again, thank you, Andy. And yeah, have a lovely rest of your evening.